Madison, come on. Don't leave me. Please. Someone help my baby.
Screams tore through the night in Long Branch, New Jersey, on the night of September 8, 2018.
The scene inside the small house was like something out of a horror movie. Blood was all over the floor, red handprints were on the wall as if someone was desperately holding on to life. And in the midst of the chaos, a 16-year-old girl was lying motionless, her lips were purple, her breathing was weak. Her name was Madison Wells. At that moment, Madison's entire family fell into hell. No one knew what had happened, only that she had just staggered through the door, whispered her last words, "He stabbed me," and collapsed. The first person to call 911 was Casey, Madison's aunt. Sobbing and trembling, Casey pleaded, "Please, come quickly. My niece is dying before my eyes." When the police and paramedics arrived, they could not believe their eyes. The young girl lay motionless on the floor, blood splattered beneath her, handprints sliding down the wall as a final cry for help. The EMTs immediately performed CPR, inserted a breathing tube, pumped oxygen, and checked for a pulse. Everyone hoped for a miracle. "I'm breathing. Madison, listen to me. Hold on." A paramedic shouted, but all efforts were not enough. The tragic scene did not stop there. As Madison was loaded into the ambulance, her mother hugged her daughter tightly, screaming in panic, "Please, don't let my child die." But at the hospital, the worst happened. Doctors declared Madison dead from excessive blood loss and severe injuries. The 16-year-old girl, who dreamed of becoming a fashion designer, who said she would bring honor to her family, was gone. After just a few stabs from a man she once loved, the police immediately went into action. The first person they questioned was Casey, who found Madison lying in a pool of blood. Casey said that she, her sister and her boyfriend were with Madison that night. Madison was brought to their house around 9 p.m. But only half an hour later, Madison went out, didn't say where she was going, and returned with blood all over her shirt and the last words, "He stabbed me." The police pressed, Who stabbed your niece?" Casey didn't hesitate, "It must be Brian. Her ex-boyfriend. Brian Cordero Castro, 20, is Madison's ex-boyfriend. They used to work at the same restaurant, dated for about a year but recently broke up. I had a bad feeling about this kid from the start," Casey said. "I warned Madison, but he didn't listen. He's been cold to me lately because I hate Brian." The clues started to point to one person, Brian. The police identified the identity, but could not convict him immediately. They needed evidence. And as if fate wanted to bring the truth to light, they found the murder knife. The knife was long, sharp, and bloody, thrown in the carport near the scene. Not only that, a nearby surveillance camera recorded the image of a young man leaving Madison's house right after the incident. He ran towards the ocean. The camera angle was blurry, but the face, the figure, the way he walked, looked very much like Brian. This made the police follow the trail more urgently than ever. At this time, the police arrived at Brian's house. The door was open. They asked his relatives, "Is Brian here?" "No, he left early." Not believing, the police asked permission to search the house. They searched every corner, the bathroom, the attic. But Brian had disappeared. He did not bring his phone, did not leave any traces, as if he had planned to escape in advance. With no other options, the police turned to the phone companies to track the signal, but to no avail. Brian had turned off his phone.
All leads seemed to lead to a dead end, until a second surveillance camera, located near a bar behind Madison's house, captured a clear image: Brian walking toward Madison's house.
The time matched. The appearance matched.
And worse, after leaving, he never returned to his residence during the time of the murder.
The police knew they had a decisive clue. It was time to arrest Brian. As soon as they got the security camera image, Brian Cordero Castro, Madison's ex-boyfriend, walking toward the victim's house at the time of the murder, the police knew it was a race against time. They immediately returned to the area, scoping out the usual places Brian might have been hiding: relatives, friends, even his old workplace. A team of undercover investigators followed up on every lead.
And then, another camera captured the exact moment Brian entered his cousin's house. The police surrounded him and knocked on the door.
When the door opened, they saw Brian standing in the kitchen. "Are you Brian?" an officer asked.
Brian nodded, his eyes confused. There was no doubt about it. He was the man in the CCTV footage. Brian was immediately arrested and taken to the Long Branch police station.
At this point, the police did not reveal all the evidence they had. They wanted to hear it from him. The interrogation began. Brian hesitated, beat around the bush, denied any involvement. "I didn't kill her. She was my friend. Angel did it. Not me." "Which Angel?" The police pressed. "A friend. I don't know who." The problem was, no one named Angel had ever been mentioned in Madison's life.
No friends, no neighbors, no social media. The name was entirely Brian's own, and then the police applied a subtle psychological tactic. "Madison said your name before she died."
"She named Brian." Brian was silent.
Then he sighed. "I loved her.
She promised to be faithful to me."
Brian's voice trembled. He began to tell, bit by bit, about that fateful evening. "She texted me. She needed $14 to go to work. I went to give her the money, but then we argued. I saw her on the phone, texting someone.
And I lost control." "What did you do?" the investigator asked. "I stabbed her. Multiple times." Brian confessed. He had a knife with him, and when Madison didn't respond as he wanted, he attacked her with it.
While Madison struggled, he pulled out a knife and stabbed her repeatedly in the chest and stomach. The exact wounds that killed her. The reason?
Jealousy. Obsession. Refusing to accept the breakup, a detail that made the police shudder. In the 9 hours since Madison said goodbye, Brian sent her more than 230 messages. The content was repetitive and controlling. "Where are you? Answer me. Who are you with? I'll find you." Madison was haunted and threatened for hours before she was murdered. Even more frightening, after the murder, Brian took the phone from Madison's hand and turned it off so no one could track the signal. He threw the knife near the scene, then tried to escape to his relative's house, thinking he would escape, but he was wrong. The camera system, the bloodstains, the murder knife, the confession all intertwined to form a perfect network of evidence. And that's not all. As soon as he was brought to the cell, Brian stunned everyone again. He suddenly shouted by and rushed towards the door, trying to escape the booking area. A large officer rushed in and restrained him in just a few seconds. To police, this behavior was evidence that he knew what he was doing and was trying to avoid prosecution. There was no doubt about it. Brian Cordero Castro was formally charged with first-degree murder, possession of a weapon, and conspiracy to flee from law enforcement. He was held without bail, and his trial was held online because he was considered a flight risk. As news of Madison's death spread throughout the community, students at her high school were devastated. Friends shared tearful tributes. Madison had just found herself. She had dreams, she had talent, she had a bright future. We couldn't believe that a teenage relationship could end in such a tragedy. The day Brian Cordero Castro walked into the courtroom, no one in Madison's family took their eyes off him. The mother, her eyes red and swollen, clutched the lawyer's hand, as if she was holding back all her pain so as not to burst into tears in the middle of the trial. The little sister, who Madison used to hug every night before bed, sat silently, her arms clutching a worn teddy bear that Madison had given her. And her father, a man of few words, could only utter a few words in court. "I don't want him to die. I just want him to feel every second my son screamed in pain." It took the jury just a few hours to reach a verdict. With all the evidence, the confession, the murder weapon, the surveillance cameras, and even the CCTV footage of Brian leaving the scene, the court announced, total, 40 years behind bars. No parole. No reduction in sentence. At 20 years old, Brian will grow old in prison, where he will have to live with his own memories, a love distorted by control, jealousy, and obsession. One of the most important pieces of evidence presented at trial was Madison's phone. In the 9 hours after the breakup, Brian had sent her more than 230 messages. A long string of dense text messages, from "I miss you" to "If you don't respond, I'm coming to you." The content gradually shifted from pleading to threatening. "I know who you're with. Don't make me do anything I don't want to do. If you don't come back, something will happen." Madison tried to block his number, delete his social media accounts, and ask her aunt to drive her away for a few days. But then, it was compassion that killed her. When Brian said he just wanted to give Madison $14 to catch a bus to work, she relented. And she agreed to meet, the appointment that led to her own death. To her friends, Madison was more than just a pretty girl. She was once a little girl of light, someone who always stood up to mediate conflicts between friends, helped her classmates, dreamed of becoming a fashion designer and opening her own brand. Madison just started living, a teacher shared with emotion. She was an honest, strong-willed student. What hurt me the most was that she trusted the wrong person. A group of students set up a scholarship fund named Madison Wells, for female students with dreams in the field of design or art. On the group's t-shirts, the words "Love shouldn't hurt" were printed prominently, as a reminder, love in a healthy way, not controlling. Not possessive. Psychologists in court all confirmed Brian's behavior was typical of a toxic relationship. Controlling, stalking, emotional violence, and finally physical violence. Madison tried to leave. But like many young girls, she was too young to understand, when love is accompanied by threats, it is no longer love, it is violence. Many people after this case wondered, why didn't Madison call the police sooner when she was threatened? Why didn't the adults around her realize how dangerous Brian was? And how can we, as a community, prevent similar incidents? Long Branch police held seminars at the high school, talking about healthy relationships, about the warning signs of falling in love with the wrong person. They sent out a strong message: if someone loves you so much that it makes you afraid, it is not love. It is violence that needs to be reported. More than 6 years have passed since Madison was murdered. Her mother still leaves a bouquet of red roses on her grave every week. Madison's best friend, who took graduation photos with her, is now a senior in design. "I chose this major because of Madison," she says. "I'm going to continue the dream my friend never had." To her family, Madison is a pain that will never heal, but to the community, she is a reminder that teenage love, if not properly guided, can turn into tragedy. Are you in a relationship that makes you feel scared, insecure, or controlled? Remember, you are not alone. Speak up. Get help. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to see more heartbreaking cases that need to be told.